What's up, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of Hot Action Fishing and Fab. My name's Curtis and this is my channel. Well, I think in this episode we are going to start tracing out the decks. Yeah, all I'm gonna do is I got this ram board right here. It's just like some thin cardboard. Gonna get that laid out on the back deck, get it traced out with a Sharpie marker, cut it out with a pair of scissors, and then lay that template onto my 1/8 aluminum and get it cut out with circular saw, get it put in place. And after doing that, I'll be able to use the material for where the hatches go to finish making the hatches, because I'm making the hatch video right now too. But yeah, let's get after it. Let's get these templates made up. Alright, I got it all traced out from that cardboard template I made up, and I'll get this thing cut out. I use this is an aluminum cutting blade for your circular saw. I got it right at Lowe's. And for the lubricant, I just use this silicone. It's got Teflon in it, and does a really good job compared to just using like WD-40 or anything like that on these cutting blades. I really like using that silicone lubricant. Here's the rear deck all cut out. I got to do a little bit more trimming on the hatches. I got some marks for grinding and cutting because it's not perfect. But this is right here, this Sharpie line. I'm going to score it. I don't know if I'm going to do it with my circular saw or with my angle grinder. I'm just going to do a light cut all the way down that. And because my brake isn't big enough to break something like this, and it's 1/8 inch, it's pretty hard to bend. So what I'm going to do is, like I said, I'm going to score it, and then I'm going to lay it on the edge of my heavy table and take a hammer and just hopefully be able to just knock and roll this edge down and capture that piece of 3/16 angle iron that's underneath this that I made the transom out of. And then I'm going to weld this, probably not the whole thing, but probably spot weld every 4 inches, couple inch weld, and that'll really strengthen up the transom, because it'll be all connected to this rear deck and pushing through all these all this flooring structure that I got underneath this aluminum. But that's what we're going with, and I'm about to drop this flooring, so hopefully it fits. Alright, here is the floor. I got it all trimmed out. Hopefully I pulled all good measurements and this thing should just drop right in. Got that all cut out, and then after I figured this dimension out, I pulled the dimension from here off of every single little bulkhead or rib, whatever you want to call it, in aluminum boats, for that one. So hopefully this thing just drops right into the boat. So go drop it in. Alright, I took a little bit of trimming. As you can see, I almost nailed my measurements, but I ended up having to open them up a little bit. And for some reason, I don't know what I did. This one was way off, and this one was way off. I don't know what I did, but apparently didn't pull a good measurement. But this is pretty freaking sweet. It is. I'm standing on it right now, and without it even I'm gonna rivet this the floor down, the subfloor down, but I'm gonna pretty much weld the rear deck and the front deck down. But right now, without any rivets in this thing, it's already crazy stable. There's like no deflection in the floor. But yeah, this is what we're going with. Alright, I got the whole rear deck. It's all trimmed out really nice. It fits perfect. I got this line just barely scored. I ended up using my circular saw. I just cut it with circular saw real quick. Just set the depth super low. And then got my strong arm clamp. She's held down good. Now I'm going to turn the GoPro on and then put my earmuffs on, and I'm going to walk down this whole edge, just tapping this edge with this little mallet. This is the angle that I am trying to acquire. So yep, let's get beating on this thing. Get it folded over. Alright, there we go. Just hammered that thing out. Got it back on the boat. It came out pretty sweet. It fits. When you push down on it, it fits really nice. Gonna be able to put a good little weld across. Probably kind of like what I did with the top of the transom. I did a stitch every few inches. Probably the same thing I'm gonna do. Besides this seam, I'm gonna weld this whole seam back up. Then I'm gonna weld all around each one of these. I installed this hatch lid just to do it, and I should have never done it. I should have done them all at once, because this just made my job a little bit harder. But yeah, so get this thing all clamped down, and then I'm gonna weld around this hatch, weld around this hatch, weld this whole front lip here, weld down the side, and then if I can from underneath, I'm gonna put some welds from underneath as well. I don't want this boat to rattle one bit, so I'm gonna do the best I can to weld everywhere I can. The floor, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna rivet a ton of rivets from the center out, because right now the floor's got to follow the contour of the hull of the boat, so it's got to go down a little bit. So I'm gonna start get my fat boat up on there, push down on the aluminum, and then start drilling and riveting out on each one of these ribs, and then I'm gonna weld in each one of these corners just to keep it just that much more quiet. And then I'm gonna start templating the front deck, and then I'm gonna do the same thing. I'm gonna weld everything I can underneath the deck and around the deck, and then on the outside of the deck as much as I can. And well, let's get that thing templated out and then get going on that. There is that piece cut. The front deck's all cut out and trimmed to fits pretty sweet, nice and flush to the back edge here. I did the same exact strip kind of thing on this side I did on the other side. I had to do a little bit of trimming to make them work sweet, but they're perfect. So I'm gonna weld this whole seam right down it on both sides. I'm gonna throw it put it on my table inside my shop, and get that seam welded up, and then after that, trace out the hatch for this hatch that's going to be right here, and then after that, pretty much make sure everything's all sweet and get this front deck welded in. But everything's all trimmed out. You can kind of see what it's going to look like. The rear deck and the floor's in, the front deck's on. Just got to do a lot of welding. Got the deck all trimmed out, had it all on the boat, figured out where the hatch is going to be in the back of the front deck, and I laid out where my strengthening points, stringers, whatever you want to call them, in my front deck on the front of the bow are, because I'm not going to be able to get to the bottom side of the deck in this area. So what I'm going to do, like I said, I laid these lines out, and I'm going to go through and I'm going to every, probably like 5 inches, drill a hole, and then I'm going to spot weld that hole closed and the one by one that's underneath the deck. I'm going to weld the deck to that 1x1. So that's what we're gonna do. I'm gonna go through, lay out all these holes, drill them out, and get this thing back thrown onto the deck. Hopefully, probably maybe the last time, possibly, and get this thing welded in and start welding all the rest in. I just went to Ace and bought a bunch of all aluminum rivets, so to get the floor riveted in, and then we're just gonna keep right on welding, weld the rear deck in, and hopefully it cools down a little bit. It's a warm day today. There's those holes I was talking about. This is where I'm gonna be spot welding the front deck down to the stringers. All right, there we got it. It's all welded in. I just forgot to totally hit the play button on my GoPro. So this is what we got. Welded all the way around this here. Welded all the way around this hatch. Welded every couple, I think it's like every 3 inches. I did a 2-inch weld all the way around the front face of this, and then I did a stitch weld all the way across the back. I still need to weld this seam all the way across the back, and then there's a support bar that runs right down here down the center of this, and I put a 2.5-3-inch weld every, I think it was like from here, and yeah, it's here and here. But from rear deck's all welded in, no deflection at all, nice and solid. I'm going to pull the subfloor out, or the floor out, and I got some foam from the guy when I bought this boat, and I figured I got it, might as well use it, and it's better than no foam. My worry, the reason why I was really leaning towards not using foam in this boat is because I'm gonna be fishing a lot of salt water, and that can cause corrosion, and I'm worried that the foam being in contact with the aluminum all the time and being wet, that it might speed up the rotting process with the salt water. But I don't know, we'll see. I'm still gonna put it down just to be safe. If I do take on water, I won't sink as fast. So let's pull this floor back out, get that foam in, and then we're gonna get the subfloor all put in. There it is. There's my foam job. I didn't get too carried away. I'm not gluing it down or anything like that. Just gonna float it underneath the deck. Once the deck's back in, it's just gonna hold it down. Yeah, I'm gonna rivet all of the ribs. I think I'm probably gonna put like freaking 10 rivets in each one of these ribs, and then yeah, then I'm gonna weld the sides right here. We just weld those edges, and that would definitely make this thing nice and solid. So that's the next thing. This is what I got. I got the floor back in it with all the foam underneath it. What I'm going to do, I'm going to just put this ruler into the hull of the boat onto the floor, and just start marking them out. Like I said, I'm going to try to get like, I don't know, 7-8 rivets in each one of these ribs. So what I'm going to do, just lay them out every few inches, try to make them look symmetrical all the way down, and drill them with my 3/16 drill bit, because these are 3/16 rivets wherever they're at. Here's the rivets. They're 3/8 to 1/2 inch grip. Gosh darn it. I tell you what, this thing's killing me. This thing right here is the absolute best thing you could do for yourself. Buy one of these damn rivet guns. They're $40 from Harbor Freight, and it's one of those tools where it just makes you wonder what the heck were you doing before, because these pop rivet guns, they work for doing like a handful of rivets, a couple here and there. When you're going to do a shit ton of rivets, this is the tool right here. This thing's freaking so nice. Just a pneumatic rivet gun. I don't know if you can run it on a small air compressor. I got a 30-gallon air compressor now, so that's what I'm running it off of. But that's a great tool. But let's get this thing laid out first. Let me clean up my freaking rivets, and then let's get after it, get this floor installed. I got the floor all riveted in. Yeah, I did like 6 or 9 rivets each freaking stringer, so it ended up being like 69 rivets. So a lot of rivets. Like a lot of rivets. So next thing I'm gonna do is I'm gonna come by and weld this edge right here on each one of these bulkheads, and then the floor will be done, and then it'll be on to installing the front deck, getting the front deck all welded down. But let's keep going. We're getting after it. I got the front deck all welded down. I got all the little spot welds that I did, and I welded a couple spots along this front edge here, and then I welded a whole bunch underneath. Like, I mean, this thing is not gonna move. Freaking sucks because it oil canned a little bit, so now the deck goes flat, 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 and it kind of dips down a little bit and then comes back up right here. Like I said, freaking, it's not gonna move when I get on. It doesn't make any noises or anything, thank goodness. But I welded the living heck out of it. There's like a weld from here to here, right where it oil canned at, but it was oil canning before warping. Oil canning, it started to warp when I was just tacking it, and I tried to counter it with moving around and stuff like that, and it just was not working. So I ended up just welding the living hell out of it. But that's the front deck, and it's all welded in. I welded all the way around this perimeter. I stitched this side. The only thing I'm gonna do is I need to finish welding this edge here. All right, that's wrapping up the deck video. The deck and floor is all done now. We can get back to building the hatches. Yeah, nothing super crazy. They're super solid. I did end up doing all 1/8 inch. I was gonna do some special stuff with the floor, but even talking with my buddy about it, because I was gonna do the PVC wood planking, the fake wood decking, and I was gonna do that all on the bottom of the boat, and I figured that'd look super sweet. Like I said, one of my older buddies, he did that in one of his old John boats, and it looked super awesome. But he's like, it worked, it did what it needed to do, but it was kind of silly because he's like, I would drop stuff and they'd be in the abyss, you'd never see it again. So he's like, I don't recommend it. So I was like, well, screw it then. So I ended up getting a good deal on an extra sheet of this 1/8 aluminum. So I ended up just buying that extra sheet, and just did the whole floor in 1/8 inch aluminum. So I'm happy, super strong. I ended up being cheaper than what all those PVC deck boards would be. So this is where we're at. It's all welded in, super nice. I welded this whole top edge, it's all done. But yeah, this is where we're at. Let's get back to doing these hatches. Thank you guys again. Hope you guys are enjoying this build, and subscribe, like, comment, share, the whole 9 yards. But you all have a wonderful week. Thank you.